He saved your life!
Why? So I can be one of your zombies? I know the kind of you do on this level.
Sick bay was full of wounded. We had nowhere else to bring you.
What the hell did you do to me?
Well, here we are. Back for thirds, I see. I know you couldn't resist more of that Venture Bros. And I don't blame you. Venture Bros is one of my favorite shows, and it still sucks how it got canceled. And with no announcements of any form of media to continue the story, I'm here to review Season 4, Episode 16, Operation Prom, and explain why this is, in my opinion, the best ending to Venture Bros. And what I mean by is, if Venture Bros didn't get a 5th season, I would be okay because how great Operation Prom is. But I'm moving a little bit too fast. Let's get to the review. So the episode starts off with Rusty giving a mission brief to his team. Brock is the driver, Hatred is the bodyguard, Dr. Orpheus is the food, Pete is music, and Al and Jefferson is decorations. Dean asks his dad what him and Hank are supposed to do. And then Rusty tells him,
Mission is to have the best goddamn homeschool prom $500 can buy.
and I love it because it shows how cheap and penny pinching Rusty is with his kids. But if you're a fan, you already know how Rusty is. He isn't just doing it for his kids, he's doing it for his own reasons as well. While the team is getting set up for the prom, we watch Billy and Pete setting up the playlist, and they have a little little argument about the playlist.
I'm fresh. Plus it's depressing. It's a prom, not a funeral.
All right, just for that, I'm not gonna play Push It.
But our dads! We've been rehearsing all week.
And let me tell you something about the dialogue of this little argument. Every time they have a little debate, I always love the dialogue and the chemistry those two actors, Doc Hamill and Christopher McClouch, have for each other. It really sounds like they're really best friends, and especially in the show when they play Pete and Billy. They're both nerds, so they always have like a pop cultural debate about stuff that the chemistry's really like on point. It's like they're not even reading a script. When they argue, it's almost like your parents fighting after your t-ball game. At the outside of the Venture compound, 21 is burying the skull of 24, and season 4 was actually 21's best season in my opinion. After the death of 24, 21 loses it and starts to see 24, and it's alluded that 24 throughout the season was able to move stuff, but it could have just been 21. But as 21 is digging a hole for his dead best friend, we see Hatred on top of the compound aiming at 21, but then his scope gets busted by Shore Leave, which, in my best opinion, Shore Leave is the best on-screen gay character I've ever seen. After some insults, they make a little bet on who could shoot 21 better, and just like always, 21 doesn't know what's going on around him. And honestly, Hatred could have killed 21 in the full shot. Like, man, if it wasn't him missing, he would have been dead. Monarch's best friend would have died in season 4. But after a few shots, Hatred does shoot 21 in the chest, knocking him out. We move on to Dean taking prom pictures with his date, Triana, Orpheus' daughter, and they do have a long history together from season 1, and I believe around season 3 she does leave to go focus more of her magic ability side from her dad. And I know what you're gonna ask. Fuck yeah, she is goth. Look at her. She's a better goth than Sam from Danny Phantom, honestly. But while they're taking pictures, Triana's boyfriend comes to go see her, and he's literally Edward from Twilight with polio. Don't know what the writing team was going with. I honestly don't know if there was a joke behind it. If you guys know what the joke, if that's a joke and you know what that means, please let me know in the comments. I want to laugh. And we see how Dean finally accepts that Triana's not his girlfriend. Watching this episode a few times had me remember that Dean and Hank never went to a real school, only homeschool, well technically bed school, because they will get taught through the beds. It will be like a tube. They were sleeping like in a tube, and their grandpa Jonas will teaches them with pre-recorded lessons. So while they haven't gone to a real school, Dean and Hank, mostly Dean, doesn't know how to interact with others and don't really have a good social standard on like things such as relationships. Hell, they don't even know how to interact with others their own age. On top of them being clones and everything, they don't even know their own age. I believe at around this time, Dean and Hank are 19. So you could see Dean being a little sip, but hey, cut him some slack. While driving back to the prom, they do run into Dermot, Hank's best friend and Dean and Hank's half-brother, but they don't find out about that until later down the line. Dermot asks if Shallow Gravy could play in the prom, and oh boy, I have a treat for you because of that. Back at the prom, we watch Rusty and Billy as they're calling for prostitutes for the adults. While on the phone, Rusty and Billy talk about their prom experiences, and we get a little more about Rusty's history with his dad, Jonas, and how he got an ex-porn star to be Rusty's prom date. And he brought 10 other cheerleaders to go for his prom date. Goes to show you what type of person Jonas was. And Rusty makes a deal with a escort service, basically get a participation package. We then see the Monarch walking in on the Muppets, crossing off 21's list of subjects in typical Monarch fashion. He feels left out and asks where is 21, not knowing that he went to the Ventral compound, but he just thinks that 21 is getting intel on the Ventrals. The Monarch is the best character of the show. Even the fact that we have Rusty, who lived through the silly hero versus villain life and is so over that part of his life, and everything new he faces, he gives it a cynical yet logical way of thinking. Sure, those times where he falls back into the eventual, but that's just his character. On the opposite side of things, we have the Monarch, Rusty's arch villain, who takes on the wacky villain Monocle and pushes it to the max, even having others thinking that he's not a threat at all, and finding out in later episodes that he knows that people don't take him seriously. But he's doing this because he truly hates everything, even himself. So the thought of making Rusty's life a living hell is what gets him out of bed. Wow, pretty deep, Malcolm, pretty deep. From that, we get back to 21 waking up from getting shot by Hatred. And how is he even alive? I don't remember henchmen's uniforms being made out of Kevlar, unless they gave 21 a bulletproof vest, but ouch, that looks disgustingly painful. But he wakes up in the Sphinx headquarters with short leave. They throw some shots at one another and 21 sees that they have Monstroso, one of the recurring main villains of the story, but we're gonna have to get back to that later. Short leave is then alerted by the giant Sphinx that there are some intruders in the front gate. With not many Sphinx agents around, Short leave then invites 21 to come with and assist them. At the front gate, we see Owl with a bunch of Monstroso's goons. While Short leave and 21 are trying to make a plan on what to do, I find it kind of funny that 21 basically knows the Ventral compound more than anyone else, and even states that he's been storming it since the 90s.
I've been storming this place since the 90s. All right, signal me when we bounce.
Watch out for the cutie in the kilt. He's one of the good guys.
Dude, I'm not a good guy.
Oh, yes, you are. Now scoot.
I'm more impressed that Brock hasn't even killed him since the 90s. Something of a dumb look, right? Anyway, and 21 says that he's a bad guy, and Short leave then proceeds to tell him that no, he isn't. And that was something they tried to do for 21 in season 5, make him a good guy, but then they kind of like rode him into a wall and then rewrote him back to being a bad guy. Or a henchman. Back at the Ventral prom, Rusty and the other guys then proceed to greet the escorts that came, while Hank and Dean just walked in, and by then the prom starts. It's funny to see how all the men bomb with the escorts, like they have no game at all. Like Billy is trying to convince one that he's a millionaire, Jefferson is just dancing weird, and Rusty is just talking about his childhood.
Star, or of a cartoon notable. I got our ass canceled. Had a Thundar lead in, but we couldn't hold the numbers. Maybe if you'd had a fucking mock on the show. We were too smart for the room.
And it's so tough to watch. During the prom, the Monarch and Dr. Mrs. the Monarch are sneaking into the Ventral compound underneath the prom. While sneaking, they do have someone kidnapped in the trunk of their car. Their car gets sunk and they had to go retrieve everything. They knock at the door and then Hatred greets them and tells them to leave or he'll kill them. The Monarchs hand him guild papers and Hatred still won't let them in, but it's not until they offer Princess Tiny Feet, Hatred's ex-wife, and they explain that if he wants to get back with her, he has to please her BDSM needs. Yeah, I don't know if you have caught on, but this show is pretty adult. He lets them in, but needs them to change into prom attire, and then Hatred proceeds to give the first hint of a long-running theory to the Monarch.
You're gonna need to change. You're what? A size doc?
And then after that, it was pretty much just a long-running theory that the Monarch and Rusty are actually brothers, and it was actually confirmed later on in season 7. Back at the prom again, and Rusty is talking to his day and offers her a Rusty Ventral. He then gets slapped and dumped, and is confused on the matter. Short leave and Al explain that a Rusty Ventral is a sex move, and the gay community used to have Rusty Ventral parties back then, but then it turns into on what a Rusty Ventral is, where everyone has their own interpretation on what it is, one more nastier than the next. And it's funny when they even call Colonel Gentleman and even the guild. Rusty then gets disgusted, as he should, that his name is used for that, and then storms away. But Short leave and Al won't stop to find out what it is. They do make a bet on whoever finds out what a Rusty Ventral is, the other has to give to. Hank and Dermot get on stage and play their band Shallow Gravy's hit song, Jacket. If you haven't heard of the song, go watch it now. It's on YouTube. It's a really catchy song. Dean gets fed up with Triana as she explains what a Rusty Venture is, and then insults her and her boyfriend. She leaves and calls him a little boy. And yeah, Dean blew it with Triana at this point. Like, dude, come on, she was never yours. We are in the lab now and we see Billy and Rusty making a super Spanish fly that will make everyone's dates want them. Yeah, Rusty as a character doesn't really have shame if it has anything to do with a science. It's a trait he gets from his father. We see more of that with Jonas. He will typically do whatever he wants as long as it makes him happy. Back at the prom, 21 is talking to the ghost of 24, and he tells him that he's done with 24 and he loves him, but he needs to see him go. A drunk Dr. Orpheus hears him and talks to him about seeing ghosts. When 21 comes to terms that 24 is gone, 24 is gone.
Listen, Dad, they're gone.
Oh, yes, oh, there's that hug. Gone, but not forgotten. Perhaps they'll reunite.
And I love seeing that 21 is getting closure that he needs, because during the first 3 seasons, him and 24 were inseparable. And when 24 died, I didn't know what they were gonna do for 21. Without his best friend, I thought they were gonna write him off and maybe kill him off. But later on, he does end up becoming the Monarch's #2 and even becoming the Monarch's first friend. And it's great, their friendship is as much or even more than 21 and 24's. That is a debate for another time. At the back of the prom, Brock is doing what Brock does best at bagging women and explain what a Rusty Venture is.
A Rusty Venture is the name for when you jerk off so much your dick gets all red and sore.
He goes into the Sphinx's hideout with one of the escorts, but then he gets knocked out by Molotov. Molotov and Brock, they both have a long history together, and we'll see more of that a little bit later. Back at the prom, Dermot gives the down bad Dean advice on how to get Triana back, and the 3 leave. Then the Monarch talks to 21, still thinking that he's here for an arch. 21 tells him that he actually likes the good guys and he quits being a henchman. He tells the Monarch that he even kissed his wife. The Monarch brushes it off and tells him that they're evil and those swingers. Yeah, forget the Joker and Harley Quinn. The Monarch and Dr. Mrs. the Monarch are the best villain couple. I don't care, fight me on this opinion. 21 leaves the prom drunkenly, and while everyone is looking at the Monarch, he gives a grand speech and makes it into an arching.
Little prom? Well, you have just felt the sting of the mighty monarch. Again, Dr. Venture, we have bested you. Good night and unpleasant dreams.
Gotta give props, Malcolm can really think on his feet. Towards the end of the prom, Dean and Hank are crowned king and queen, but since they left early, they crowned Hatred and Tiny Feet. As they accepted the song Like a Friend by Plope back at the Sphinx hideout, as a knocked out Brock wakes up and he sees Molotov putting a knocked out Monstroso in the back of a limo, and he begins to chase him, where it ends with the limo where Molotov and Monstroso dangling off a cliff and Brock holding onto the hood. The music in the background is slowly getting louder. At the cliff, Brock confronts Molotov and basically breaks off the weird trying to kill each other relationship.
Give it up, Maul. You got nowhere to go but down. And you know why? Because you are a bad person. You don't know the first thing about duty, or honor, or friendship. You're just a cold-hearted mercenary bitch. I'm tired of spending my life chasing.
Molotov tells him that she's not here for the money. Brock mistakes that she's here for him, but turns out that she's here for Monstroso. A broken-hearted Brock refuses her to leave and tries to arrest her because at the end of the day, Brock is a good guy. Sphinx operative, no less. She then tells him,
infiltrated your compound. They are in the position as we speak. If I fail to contact them with the abort code by midnight, all of your friends will die.
Brock then calls her bluff and threatens to let Monstroso fall, but she pushes Brock off the hood, letting them both fall from the limo to their death. Before Brock can even think on what just happened, he checks his watch and it's 2 minutes to midnight. And then we watch Brock desperately start running back. Then the song plays, and I don't know if it's the song or the intensity of the situation, but watching Brock jump off that motorcycle to run faster, only thinking that all the people that he's close to might die. Then the clock hits 12. He runs into the prom ready to kill anyone, and what does he see? Everyone is fine. Brock looks around and everyone is enjoying themselves with the dates and sees Rusty waving a bottle of Spanish Fly. The fact that Rusty unknowingly prevented the killing of him and everyone else is pretty much Rusty's thing. But before it ends, the ladies turn into a gross giant mutation of a fly, and then Brock walks in with his knife smiling. And then it pans out and the credits roll as Like a Friend plays. And that was Operation Prom, and honestly, that is one of my favorite episodes. And at the time, Adult Swim hadn't announced that season 5 or anything else of Venture Bros. So around that time, everyone thought that season 4 was it. But if the show had ended there, it would be no doubt the best ending of any Adult Swim show in history. The last few minutes just sums up what the Venture Bros is all about, with Rusty kind of saving the day, but just getting to more mishap. The women becoming giant monsters, and we see everyone fighting, or anyone that could fight. Even Brock joining in because that's what Brock does. He loves killing, but that's just typical Venture Bros. I didn't talk about the other plots where Hunter gathers and the Spinks go into the OSI because I just want to focus more on the prom aspect of this episode. And we do see what happens with Dean and Triana. Just like father and son, the boys do mess up trying to get back to Triana, and it ends up looking like a KKK threat. It's sad to see that the show ended, but I'm sure one day we'll hear the call for Ventral. If not, hell, I'll owe you a Rusty Ventral.
Hello, Adult Swim viewers. Thanksgiving's coming early this year.
This is straight coconut milk. I'm gonna throw up.
Because the Venture Brothers Season 4 epic 1-hour extravaganza finale is coming on November 21st.
It's mostly oil. I don't feel well. I think I have diarrhea.
November 21st, the Venture Brothers Season 4 epic extravaganza 1-hour long finale.
Ow. Ow.
Your welcome's giving.
It's coming.